Hello, and welcome to Strictly Business. I'm your host, Penny Font. This podcast features conversations with Louisiana's most influential CEOs, entrepreneurs, and community leaders, with the goal of providing insights, ideas, and inspiration to help you and your business grow. Strictly Business is brought to you by the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Without their support, this project would not be possible. Before we begin, here is a brief message from our sponsor.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library believes that a thriving business community is good for us all. That's why we help entrepreneurs start businesses with tools like Gale Business Builder, keep commerce rolling by providing access to computers, printers, and free Wi-Fi at 14 branch locations. Get a library card. Grow your business at ebrpl.com/business.
Thank you. We want to keep Strictly Business as interactive as possible. So for those joining us live, here's an icebreaker question for you. Submit your vote in the comments, and the results will be posted at the end of the podcast. Ascension has quietly become one of the most consequential economic development stories in Louisiana, and arguably the Gulf South. From mega sites and multi-billion-dollar industrial projects to rapid population growth and mounting infrastructure demands, the parish is navigating growth at a scale few regions manage well. Today we're joined by Kate MacArthur, President and CEO of the Ascension Economic Development Council, to talk about what's driving that momentum, what it takes to manage it responsibly, and what business leaders should understand about where Ascension is headed next. Kate, welcome to Strictly Business.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's start with the big picture. When you describe Ascension to a CEO who doesn't know the region, what's the why Ascension story today, and how is it different from, say, 5 or 10 years ago?
Sure. Well, typically I start with the geography and explain that one of the many benefits of being in Ascension Parish is the proximity to the state capital of Baton Rouge and our tourism capital of New Orleans. So that helps geographically. And then I continue to explain all of the benefits of being in Ascension Parish because you're on the Mississippi River, that you have interstates, rail access, so the ability for our businesses to be able to reach the entire world from locating here. So then I talk about all of the assets that we have that are existing, which have been here longer than the 5 to 10 years, but that we've consistently been building on those relationships with the industry we have and growing. And we have been the fastest growing parish in Louisiana. We have experienced tremendous amounts of new technologies, new companies, and really just encourage them to learn more about whatever the specific focus is that that business or site selector or person has, and what their real interest is in looking at potentially coming to visit or locate a business in Ascension.
Certainly a lot of advantages. What would you say is your most misunderstood fact about Ascension's economy that business leaders in Baton Rouge or New Orleans or elsewhere still get wrong?
I don't know if there's a lot of misunderstood information about Ascension, but I think overall what I encounter as the most misunderstood about doing business is how we make it look so easy here. And it's really not. And so I think that's a typical trap of success, maybe you would say, is just the fact that people think it's just automatic when it is a tremendous amount of work that goes into recruiting and building and continuing to grow. So we never take a break. We never relax. We celebrate our wins, but we always know that there's a lot more work to be done. And then I think the other highly misunderstood is about incentives and the real value of having incentives and being innovative in incentives and flexible. And I think we have had a lot of success that shows that offering these types of incentives have overall grown our economy and not detracted anything.
Absolutely. So Ascension sits at the intersection of heavy industry, logistics, and fast-growing residential communities. So how do you balance those forces without letting one undermine or impact the other?
I think they really are all interconnected, and I'm very thankful that our role at Ascension Economic Development is the business part of it and not really getting into the education, the safety, the the residential, but really being connected with all of the parties that do handle that kind of aspect here. So having everyone at the table and really having our leadership in the parish aligned really makes all of these parts work well. So what we focus on a lot is zoning. So are there places where we need to increase buffers? So we have a lot of similar things to other communities where you have older pockets of commercial or residential. And as times have changed, you either grandfather in some non-conforming uses, or you have to really kind of evaluate where you can put in new development. So we've gone through some challenges where it's a strange problem where residential is trying to move closer into the industrial area. But mainly what we've done is kind of try to keep industry along the river and then keep the population centers away and move the commercial and retail in between. So that way you have the services that everyone's looking for kind of as that middle area. But as the area in Geismar in particularly has grown in the last 60 years, it's just amazing at how many neighborhoods keep trying to move into this area because it's just such a great employment center and the school systems are amazing. And so it is something that has a challenge consistently, is just really balancing how to grow correctly. And that is really something that you just have to work on every single day. There's no magic answer, and it has to be continuously updated.
So you mentioned Ascension schools, which are high performing, very high performing. Often rapid growth like that taxes school systems, but Ascension maintains an A rating and I believe is ranked number 2 in the state. Just from your perspective, looking in, what do you think is Ascension's secret, and how does that factor into corporate recruitment that you're doing?
Can't tell all of our secrets or everybody to be doing. Just kidding. The school system, I think we do have the largest public school system that is the highest rated. So we are very proud of that. And it does factor into business recruitment. And I would go back to say it really goes back to the alignment of leadership and the flexibility. So rather than teaching a curriculum necessarily that's rigid, so while they do hit all of the regular metrics, they are very open to discussing things that are emerging. So they'll partner on new training programs, new dual enrollment opportunities that I think, and that's kind of really been taking off all around this area, but just the ability to be more flexible so that you're giving opportunities to every student in all different areas. So it's not just you're going to go straight to college, but maybe you're preparing for a specific job in the workforce. And we really want that to be a job that is here in Ascension because we would really like our residents to stay here. And so I think the growth, while has been tremendous, it's been a pretty solid 2% a year. So I think the school system has done a very good job of planning the demographics to understand where those population centers are expanding in order to keep building new facilities. And the voters have been very responsive in approving the tax millage that allows our growth and our continued upgrades in technology and having really the best teachers and the best programs. So I think that's something where as we grow our businesses and then taxes increase just overall, and I don't mean on people, I mean on businesses paying more of these taxes, enables us to have a lot of the nice things that we enjoy that really help us be successful in all the different facets of the community.
Makes a big difference. Thank you for sharing that. Looking ahead 5 to 10 years, what does success actually look like for you? Is it more mega projects? Is it deeper supplier networks, diversification, or something else?
Well, it's all of the above. So yes, we would like all of those things. But I think specifically success for us is going to be a more balanced growth. And I say that in the fact that our parish is separated by the river. So we have an east side and a west side, and the east side has just experienced tremendous growth over the last 50 years. And the west side has been in a period of decline. So I think our work has really been focusing on how to make that more equitable. So we've been putting in programs over the last 15 years to try and reverse that trend. And I think that over the next well, it'll be the next 50 years, not the next 10 years. But again, we're going to put a lot more emphasis on developing out that area so that we have a longer term sustainable growth that isn't just located in one area of the parish.
I gotcha. So one of the biggest reasons Ascension is getting national attention right now is scale, especially the Riverplex. It's often described in terms of its size, roughly 17,000 contiguous acres. But what's the real competitive advantage of a site that large in today's site selection environment?
Well, the river. So they're not making any more land, and they're not making any more land that is accessible by water. So again, there's a lot of areas that have comparable assets that we have that are not doing quite as well as we are, but it just goes back to being aligned in the planning of how you want to grow. And I think that has been consistent here in Ascension. And so about almost 15 years ago, we started the Riverplex Mega Park concept. And it was that 17,000 acre area that at the time was the largest contiguous industrial area in the United States. So the challenges, again, were really communicating with the landowners in that area to make sure that they were on board with this concept. And then we went on to put in an industrial overlay, which was just a future land use zoning map, essentially. And then realized that as we are marketing this site, it doesn't have the infrastructure to really be an industrial park. So while, yes, you can be on the river and you can access rail and you can have all this road network, potentially, it didn't exist. So when you're talking to these businesses that already are investing millions and potentially billions into just their own facility, they don't have extra hundreds of millions of dollars to invest into all of that infrastructure that in a normal industrial park would already exist. So that was kind of our goal. So then we put in an economic development district as a way to enable infrastructure to be built and to be held publicly so that we would be able to have more control over the layout and the usage so that we could more fairly have the ability for all property owners to benefit equally. So we really spent a lot of time on that and putting in the framework. Again, probably my comment is it's great to plan. It's even better to consistently make sure that everybody stays aligned with the plan. But then obviously as you're implementing it, there's so many things that you can't control that you will encounter, but it is still the best way to go. And I think people through different political cycles or different changeovers at organizations somehow lose their dream or their focus, but we've been able to navigate all of the different political cycles, all of the different changes in organizations that have worked on this from the beginning and have sustained it, which is why we have now, I guess, finally found success in 2025.
It really is an impressive story. From a CEO's perspective, or an investor's perspective, what has to be true for a mega site like Riverplex to move from quote unquote interesting to quote unquote deal ready?
Well, the biggest is a proof of concept. So they need to see that a business has moved in successfully and is operating. So until then, I mean, you basically just have a piece of dirt. Like, it's just one of those things. So once you have the first business, it's like we think of it maybe like a domino effect where the first domino falls and then it'll continuously build out. Now that takes a long time. And again, a lot of work and a lot of mitigating through different aspects that are going to come up. But really to prove to the site selection consultants and other businesses around the globe that this is really a viable business area, we actually need to have a viable business. So that's really, I guess, the most exciting part of the year in 2025 is getting those first few businesses to commit. And now over the next few years of construction, really prove that this concept is going to happen and that we're really going to be able to do all the things that we wanted to.
So let's dig into that a little bit more. How do you think about infrastructure sequencing, roads, rail, river access, utilities, when you're trying to get to that, timeline for construction?
Well, in the ideal world, it would all exist and then we would build into it, right? It just, the chicken and the egg. And again, like you hear all these sayings and they're really frustrating. But ultimately, it always comes down to money and control. And there's never enough money to go around. And again, you have parish roads, you have state highways, and it's a lot of different players. You have different approval agencies for permitting, and they have different feelings about should a road go or not. Is it changing patterns of drainage? Like there's just so many things that people don't think about when they're just saying, oh, we just need better roads or we need to have this put in. So it is very difficult to be ahead. So our goal is always to have the infrastructure existing to mitigate any traffic hazards that could come up. But I find that I don't know anywhere that has successfully really mitigated. So there's all kinds of strategies that you use, but I don't know of anyone who has done the you build it and they come theory in the infrastructure world. But that would be a dream that one day someone can figure out how to make that happen before the actual construction and the businesses and all of that comes. But we're working through it. It's a struggle, but I guess I always just use another phrase is that it gets worse before it gets better. And I think that's with any transportation project is it may be really hard while you're going through it, but ultimately you're going to get a better product when the construction is over.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what all is involved in that. Not every project, I'm assuming, is a fit for Riverplex Mega Park. How important is discipline in saying no, and what might disqualify a project from there?
Yes, we get asked this a lot about how you qualify a project, and really it's kind of throughout a process. So when you start with your initial lead and however it comes to you, there's a lot of investigating that goes on. So once you know, and again, you may not even know who the company is for a while you're working with them. But once you do, there's a lot that goes into investigating the financials of the company, the leadership of the company that's coming, and really the product that they're trying to produce and what does that mean for the community. So by the time we get through that process, and you may hear about it publicly, it's already really gone through those hurdles. So that's what I like to say is if there were duds, they were gone before anyone even knew they were here. I think one project that sticks out to me was a company that did recycling. So they brought in trash, just like household trash on a barge, and then they stored it on their site, and then they recycled it into all different kinds of streams of reusable products. And they had one existing facility in the world. And I said, I need to go to this facility because I need to know what it smells like. So I thought that's the weirdest thing, but I was like, I need the smell test because we need to know from what distance this could impact or blow on the wind or our really hot climate. Like those kinds of things are still very important to us. We do a lot of field trips to see where things are operational. If there's something that is new to us that we want to make sure is a fit. But ultimately, I know it's more rare, I guess, to have really strange things asking to do a project. But typically, if it's not a good fit, it doesn't make it very far into our decision process. So
very interesting.
In the public at that point.
Very interesting. Beyond landing anchor tenants, how intentional are you about attracting supplier ecosystems that create longer term economic value?
So I guess the main theory of economic development is that you really want the very large economic driver business because they're the ones that are going to have multiple suppliers, new locations. They're really driving those small and medium enterprises. They're creating the greatest amount of payroll that is then being spent in your community. So we're always after those anchor tenants. Those are always key. But we appreciate all of the smaller ones and fill them in. And we like to cut down on the supply chain because it's better for business when you are closer and can access each other faster. It's better for the environment when you can connect via pipeline. It's just safer that way. So we really try to make sure that everything we bring in is integrated into our existing network. And we have a lot of success looking at businesses that complement what we have or use materials that are already being produced here. So there's a lot of natural synergies that exist. And And we really facilitate all of that. And I say all that. Our organization also works on commercial developments like larger shopping centers. So we are very much involved in secondary operations in the economy as well.
I gotcha. So Hyundai Steel changed the conversation about Ascension almost overnight. Talk to me about what this project specifically, $5.8 billion investment, what does that do to Ascension's competitive profile nationally?
So the Hyundai project is transformational. And I know that we've continued to have amazing success. We've had multiple over $1 billion projects over the years, but the Hyundai project was significant. So one, it was a new industry that we didn't have. It was the first one to go into this Riverplex mega park that we've been working on for so long. And it was announced at the White House. So I was like, those three things was just amazing. And it was one where it literally took every single partner in our network to make it happen. And it's still an everyday collaboration to really work on this project. It's Hyundai's first location for steel manufacturing outside of Korea, which is very exciting. It's the first one here in the US. So they will be supplying their automotive plants with the steel that's made in Ascension, which is exciting. And then the most exciting part for us locally is the fact that it is the first major investment in 40 years on the West Bank of Ascension, and that they're going to hire 1,400 new jobs at amazing wages, and that we're really using this to try and stop the decline of the West Bank, get people trained, or even if it's just supplier opportunities. So we're really trying to build strategies so that after this plan is operational, we can continue growing that side and really revitalize that whole area.
That's very exciting. You talked about suppliers. So for local and regional CEOs, what kinds of supplier or service opportunities typically emerge around a project of that scale? And how can companies start thinking about positioning themselves to compete?
There's tremendous opportunities. This project is huge. So it just covers everything from PPE providers to catering to fencing. I mean, it's just tremendous amounts of opportunities. So what has been great is that Louisiana Economic Development created Source Louisiana. So it's a way for all Louisiana businesses to put their information into a database online so that all of the procurement teams, because there are multiple procurement partners, so that way they're able to find the companies that they're looking for and understand the certifications in order to make sure that they have the opportunity to bid on different parts of this project. So I think my advice would be, one, to get on Source Louisiana and make sure your business information is correct. And then two, to look at ways that you can partner with other companies. So if you're a contractor or a subcontractor, what would be a way to make your business proposition more appealing? So when you're looking at these large projects, how to make it as easy as possible to be selected with your expertise. So I think that's really the main focus that they should be looking at. And then obviously get involved in networking opportunities. So these large projects are very much out there in the community and accessible from different industrial groups and chambers of commerce. So really just make sure that you're getting the information to them and that you are positioning yourself in the best possible way to compete. And I think with these larger projects, it's really about how you can work together with other partner organizations or even sometimes competitors to give a better proposal.
That's some great insight. Thank you for sharing that. So what are the biggest risk factors for a project of this magnitude, whether it be schedule, workforce, infrastructure timing, permitting, or other things? And how do you actively de-risk them?
So I would say timeline and permitting are the largest factors in success. And there is a significant amount of effort put in to try and make sure that we are facilitating the process to move along. So while we have a very extensive partner network, it's really trying to make sure that everybody is knowledgeable and helping where we need to connect. So, I mean, there are rules in place. There's processes that you have to go through. So there's some things that are just, they're obviously set in stone. And then there are some things that we can also facilitate helping with or fast tracking. But I think in particular, this project has a lot of pieces where we're trying to get infrastructure put in a timely way so that when they're ready to be operational, they're able to be operational. So there's just a lot of moving parts here that are going to be happening simultaneously. So it's really just trying to plan ahead and make sure that we're looking at whatever risks. I mean, we always talk about traffic is what can we do as a community, as a region, in order to really try and de-risk as much as possible. So that's why I say this is an everyday activity, because it will be ongoing for the next 4 years.
Totally understand. So Hyundai isn't happening in a vacuum. Ascension already has one of the state's strongest industrial bases. With major players in Geismar and Donaldsonville continuing to reinvest, what do expansions say to other global manufacturers watching the region?
So it's always a positive story. I would say the number one asset in Ascension is the Mississippi River. The second asset is our workforce. And so I think when you are outside looking in, you see this and you say, I can move product from here and I have a competent workforce. And so I think that is the greatest thing that we have. Now, when you are already here, you're looking at it, oh no, another business is coming in and they're going to steal our workforce. So we don't want that to be the case. And so another thing that is going on in the next 3 years is we're putting in another training facility. So the River Parishes Community College is opening another campus in Donaldsonville. So that one will have some specific curriculums to emerging career fields. Right now, they're trying actively to get more trade work done, because we know that there is just going to be a tremendous need in industrial construction and skilled trades, skilled craftsmen. So anyone who is interested in that, we're trying to get them all trained now. And so it's just really trying to make sure that we have a regional effort for having a workforce, so that it's not just moving workers around that are already here, but really training and bringing in new workers.
I gotcha. So on infrastructure, what single investment or improvement would most directly unlock Ascension's next phase of growth?
Oh, it's like there's so many. I think we're really looking at an expressway on the West Bank. I was like, do we want to throw in the new Mississippi River Bridge? It's so hard to focus on any one, because it's never just one. And so even if you said, oh, the new Mississippi River Bridge, well, then you need to make sure the roads to that bridge are at a capacity where you're going to move traffic flow in an efficient way that makes it actually make sense and not just be another traffic snag. So I think I could sit here and just say, new infrastructure to just cross the river by a ferry. Like, it could be anything at this point, but I think really what would help Ascension specifically is a West Bank Expressway to better handle heavier truck traffic, as well as another connector somewhere between the Mississippi River Bridge and the Sunshine Bridge to help with our traffic flow between our heavy industrial area in Geismar and this new upcoming industrial area in Modest. So I really think that would be the number one impacting factor for us. But yeah, we could probably put a whole list together of everyone to, but
I can imagine. The time has gone by so fast. Let's close with this. For C-suite leaders watching Ascension from the outside, what's the one thing they should be paying attention to right now that really isn't getting enough attention?
Well, I think I'll just steal LED's catchphrase that they've been using is we're trying to move at the speed of business. And I think Ascension has been doing that. I just think that now as a state, we're really focused on it. So I really would like outsiders, site selectors to really see that the state is really moving in a new direction, and that we are really able to compete with all of the other areas on the Gulf Coast. And we really hear for all the emerging industries. We have, I guess, weathered the storms, and that may be an unintended pun, but I think every single shift, if it was a hurricane or a COVID or political changes at the federal and state levels, I really believe that we have overcome those and that we've done it successfully, and we have an entire area to prove that. And so I just really would welcome anybody to come in and see. And we do actually welcome other areas that come and study Ascension because they're looking at ways to replicate it in their own communities. So I think it's just really getting that messaging out continuously, and then having everybody, and again, just the whole state optimism of everybody to really believe what they're saying. Like, if you live here, go tell everyone why you love it here. Don't just complain about the traffic. Like, I think that's overall is probably just a wish of optimism to be shared outside of our state.
A great sentiment. Kate, this has been so informative. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. I really enjoyed it.
And thanks also to you, our viewers, for tuning in, as well as our sponsor, the East Baton Rouge Parish Library, for making this experience possible. Please join us for the next episode of Strictly Business on March 18th. Until then, on behalf of our show's director, Tim Coles, and me, enjoy and make your day a great one.